And pitching for the Phillies tonight, it is Steve Carlton. The left-hander is 0-1 on the year with an ERA of 8.71. Going for the Mets, it's Ron Darling, whose record is 0-0 with an ERA of 12.46 so far.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Kiner, along with Tim McCarver and Steve Zabriskie, and the Mets finally getting underway. After 2 rainouts, the Mets are able to go against the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies have played only 6 games so far this year. They have a record of 3-3, and the Mets have played just 5, and they have won 2 and lost 3, and they have lost 3 in a row. For the New York Mets, it'll be Ron Darling, and Ron Darling has a lifetime record against the Philadelphia Phillies of 3 wins and 5 losses with an earned run average of 5.05. And going for the Philadelphia Phillies,
Steve Carlton, his counterpart, of course, who is 30-33 against the Mets, make that 30-34 against the Mets lifetime. He has a good ERA, but I think it's interesting to note that the Mets have beaten Steve more than any other pitcher that they faced, and they've also lost to him more than any other pitcher that they faced. So it should be very interesting tonight.
So a great pitcher in Steve Carlton, a near great pitcher in Ron Darling tonight. And let's go down to Steve Zabriskie and his special guest.
Thanks, Ralph, and hi, everybody. Well, one of the continuing stories for the New York Mets is the fans' reaction to George Foster and how it puts negative pressure on George. Well, we talked to George about it, and he feels that this year he's better able to deal with it because he has added spiritual strength.
Well, the fact is realizing that they're concerned about your performance. They're not concerned about you as an individual. And I can't deal with that, so I just go out there and strive to get stronger spiritually and read the word every day and just give prayers and bless those people who are out there. And I know that when I start hitting the ball better, they're going to be on my side.
What about the crowd's reaction to the ball club overall? Obviously not the kind of start the Mets had hoped for.
Well, it's a funny city is that we're 2-3, and they're talking as though we're out of the race already, that the Cardinals are running away, or that they're just disappointed because we're 2-3, and if we're 5-0, they probably said, well, we're definitely gonna go all the way. But it just once we start getting on the winning track, and those things will be all right. And they just want a winner and nothing else, and that's what we want. Also, is the important thing is that they keep the confidence and faith in us, and we're gonna go out there and try to do the best job that we're able to do because we want a winner, and it wouldn't be a better thrill, I guess, to give a championship to the New York Mets fans.
Winning's all it takes, and for George, hitting is about all it will take as well. And we'll see if the Mets can accomplish both against the Philadelphia Phillies. Coming up next, right after this, for Budweiser.
Off for the Philadelphia Phillies. Rita sitting .321 so far this year with 1 home run and 3 RBIs, and Ron Darling picks up a strike. Darling has had 1 appearance so far this year, and he has a no decision. He comes in with an earned run average of 12.46. Worked 4 1/3 innings against Philadelphia in Philadelphia, and there's a split finger fastball for strike 2. Ritas last year hit .252, a combined average between the Cincinnati Reds and the Philadelphia Phillies. He was a fellow that said Pete Rose shouldn't be playing. So Gary Ritas is not playing where he can say Pete Rose shouldn't be playing. He's now with the Philadelphia Phillies. It is strike 3, and Ron Darling picks up the strikeout as he works to his first batter. Defensively for the Mets, it's Hernandez, Tuffo, Santana, and Knight in the infield, 1st to 3rd. Foster, Dykstra, and Strawberry left to right. Gary Carter, the catcher, and Ron Darling, the pitcher. Now the batter will be Milt Thompson, another speedster, and he takes a called strike. Thompson hitting .160, came to Philadelphia from the Atlanta Braves. He's driven in 1 run. Had 4 hits and 25 at bats, and he can fly. And the fastball moves him right away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Thompson hit .545 against the New York Mets last season. And he fouls off the fastball. So it's 1-2. On deck batter is Von Hayes. As Darling gets underway here with a strikeout and now a 1-2 count to the second batter, Milt Thompson. It is a cool evening here at Shea Stadium, and the curveball. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Temperature right around 60 degrees and dropping. and a very breezy evening. Wind blowing in from center field. And this one hit deep to right field. It is gone. Goodbye. The Phillies lead 1-0. Milt Thompson picks up his first home run of the year, and that is his first home run for Philadelphia. Last year he had none while playing for the Atlanta Braves.
Looks like a split finger fastball from Ron Darling. And Thompson, a good low ball hitter, picks up his third major league home run. He had 2 in 1984 for the Atlanta Braves, and I'll tell you, he hit that one like a guy who weighs, instead of 160 pounds, a guy who weighs 260 pounds. He got all of it.
He turned that wind right around, hitting that thing through the breeze and out of the ballpark. And Von Hayes takes for ball 1. And now a strike call. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Hayes hitting at 240 for the year with 1 home run and 5 RBIs. Last year a 263 hitter with 13 home runs. And the split finger fastball down to Hernandez at first base. Darling completes the play, 2 men away.
Thing about Milt Thompson's home run, it really didn't have a chance to get up in that wind. He hit it low enough. I mean, that was a rocket. Darryl Strawberry took 1 step back and just watched it go over the fence.
7th home run for the Phillies so far this year. They came in with a team batting average of 258. The identical average of the New York Mets. They were leading the National League in hitting with the Mets. And now the batter will be Mike Schmidt. Schmidt hitting at 308 for the year, and the fastball for ball 1. Mike has had 1 home run and driven in 4. He has 459 career home runs.
21 of those at Shea. 40 against Met pitching over the years.
And that one a ball, and the count 2 balls, no strikes. Schmidt, a lifetime 266 hitter. 7 times he has won the home run championship. Fastball, but no call from home plate umpire Dutch Rennert, and that's 3 balls. Make that a strike call, a late strike call. So it's 2 balls and 1 strike. Schmidt last year hit 277 with 33 home runs, and the fastball hit out the deep center. The wind should hold this one up. Chrysler to the wall, and he cannot get it, and it's gone. Goodbye. And Schmidt with his 2nd home run of the year against the wind, blowing in directly from center field. So Darling greeted by 2 home runs as we get underway.
Well, that's rather disturbing. Obviously, Mike Schmidt, of course, it's not disturbing when he hits 1. That's his first lifetime home run against Ron Darling, but that is the 4th home run in 6 2/3 innings of work this year. Make that 4 2/3 innings of work for Ron Darling. Watch it hit the top of the fence. Dykstra leaping as high as he can, hit the top of the fence. The Phillies on top 2-0.
And now the batter will be Glenn Wilson, and he takes the first pitch for ball 1. Wilson hitting at 217 for the year with no home runs and 3 RBIs, and a line shot to right. Strawberry right there, and that'll do it. A 2-run score on the 2 home runs. No one left on base. The score after 1/2 inning. The Phillies 2, the Mets coming up. Now here's a word from Oldsmobile. At the bottom of the 1st inning, Len Dykstra on a bunt attempt down to Von Hayes. Dykstra does not get tagged, and now they'll argue that he went out of the line. Von Hayes making the dive for Dykstra on the drag bunt.
Carlton falling off to his right as he always does. He is not able to make the play by covering first. Von Hayes, the only one who can make the play, dives for Dykstra. And Len with that slide on the outside, and I think it would be Davy Johnson's contention that if he can touch the bag, he's not out of the baselines.
So he is safe at first base on the base hit. And now the batter will be Tim Tuffle. Dykstra, incidentally, was hitting at 318 before the base hit. Now Tuffle stepping in, hitting 200, and he draws the throw. Carlton working on the mound. A veteran of 314 victories. Dykstra running with the pitch, but the ball is fouled away.
Well, you see the aggressive style of Davy Johnson playing against the Phillies, even though he's down 2 runs. The bunt by Dykstra, and then taking off on the first pitch, and Carlton, of course, with that good move. Sometimes it's too good.
He has set an all-time record for balks. And he now is working with a count of a 1-strike count. It's sort of first base, and you get an idea about that move there. It's right in the between a good move and a balk.
Matter of fact, he hasn't been throwing to first as often as he normally does because of the balk move. A lot of umpires have been calling that balk against him in recent years. That has prevented him from having the real good move to first base.
1-1 the count. Dykstra with an average lead at first base. And Tuffle goes after the fastball. And it's 1-2. Tuffle last year hit a .260 with 10 home runs and 50 RBIs for the Minnesota Twins. And it gets away from their catcher, Russell, and Dykstra goes down to second base.
I would think it'll be a pass ball, and John Russell may have been crossed up then. It's unusual to get crossed up without a runner on second base because that's when you usually change your signs. He tried to go with that ball, trying to trap the ball down. A catcher is trained that any ball below the waist, you turn the glove over. And as you can see that ball biting down, you have to use that glove like a shovel and scoop the ball up. John Russell didn't do that, and I think it's going to be scored a pass ball, and is.
Russell, a converted outfielder, first baseman, now catching for the Philadelphia Phillies. 2-2 pitch, and Tuffle takes. And the count at 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, they changed it to a wild pitch now. Usually if the ball's in the dirt, it's an automatic wild pitch, and if it isn't, it's an automatic pass ball.
And I think you're right, Tim. He was definitely crossed up because he went out to the mound to talk to Carlton right after there. Strike 3, and Carlton picks up a strikeout.
Well, if Carlton throws that slider, this is vintage Carlton slider a couple of years ago, and for 13 years with the Phillies. Ball out of the strike zone on the 3-2 count. It serves as the illusion of a strike, but the slider rarely is.
Carlton started the season with 3,920 strikeouts, second to Nolan Ryan in the all-time list. Now he'll be working to Keith Hernandez. Keith hitting .348. No home runs, 2 runs batted in.
Hernandez hits Carlton very, very well.
And again, Russell crossed up, and the ball gets away. And this time it will be, I'm sure, a pass ball. Dykstra goes to third, and Russell having trouble with Steve Carlton.
And Carlton talking to him. You can see right here, he really battles the ball. As a matter of fact, the ball went right between the glove and its chest protector. Scooted right between the wickets, and that was definitely a cross-up. You could understand it initially, or you could understand it with a man on second, not the first one, because there was nobody on second, which would not require a change in signs.
Hernandez, a fine hitter against the Phillies, as you saw in that visual, and there's a pitch for ball 2, and it's 2 balls, no strikes.
Mets, you can see, are going to have to be very patient and lay off lefty's slider. He will not throw that slider for a strike when he's throwing it well, and he's thrown it well tonight.
And it's ball 3. Phillies leading 2-0. The Mets with a runner at third base, 1 man out, bottom of the first inning. Hernandez checking to see whether or not he's hitting or taking. The on-deck batter is Gary Carter. 3-0 pitch. Ball 4, and Hernandez walks. So the Mets with runners at first and third, 1 man out, and Gary Carter the batter. Carter hitting .318, 1 home run, 7 runs batted in.
Gary Carter, one of 2 catchers that read Carlton very well. The other, Johnny Bench, who hit 3 home runs against him. I read him well. That's why I didn't include myself. I read him well, but couldn't hit him.
You caught him well, though, and the pitch back to Carter is ball, and Carter now with the count of 1-0. Gary with 248 career home runs. Last year with 32. Drove in 100 runs last year, hitting .281. And ball 2. Carlton experienced his worst year in the major leagues last year. He was 1-8. Had his longest losing streak Lost 5 in a row. Carter goes after the slider. 2 balls, 1 strike.
I think indicative of Carlton's year last year. He walked 53 and struck out 48. The only time in his in his professional career where he walked more batters and struck out.
2 balls, 1 strike. And 3-1. It's with a fastball.
Well, he got the slider 2-0. He'll probably get the slider again. Gary Carter has hit Carlton well throughout his career. We'll see what pitch he's going to get.
Fastball, and it's 3-2. Carlton with an injury last year. Appeared in only 92 innings.
Send Hernandez here.
3-2.
Stay out of the double play if Carter hits the ball on the ground. The other side of the coin is that if he strikes out, Hernandez, who does not have good speed, is an easy target at second. I'd send him anyway.
Send him anyway, and if he strikes out, hold up and hope that Dykstra doesn't score from third. There's a breaking ball for ball 4, and the bases are loaded. So Carlton on a bunt base hit and 2 walks, working with the bases loaded and 1 out, and working to Darryl Strawberry. Strawberry hitting .190 so far this year with no home runs and 1 RBI. The RBI, a big one, though. It tied up a ball game in the 9th inning against the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals winning the ball game in 13 innings, 6-2.
That was way back on Monday, 4 days ago.
And it's ball 1. Strawberry hit .277 last year with 29 home runs in 111 games, and now time is called. Mets with the bases loaded.
Carlton is not listening to one word Claude Osteen is saying right now. I used to go out there, and one time back in 1967, I went out and I talked to Lefty. And as a matter of fact, I chewed him out for being wild, and the next day I was feeling rather remorseful. And I told him, I said, Lefty, I apologize for yesterday. He said, that's all right. I wasn't listening to you anyway.
1-0 the count, and now 2-0. Mets with a fastball. Phillies leading 2-0, but the Mets with the bases loaded, 1 man out. We're in the bottom of the first inning, and Dave Stewart starts to throw in the bullpen for the Phillies. Good curveball. So even though the count 2 balls and no strikes, Carlton able to get the breaking ball over. That is why he has won 314 ball games. Infield set back for the double play. Strawberry, a tough man to double up.
Carlton really having problems with John Russell there. He's kind of staring him off. Sometimes pitchers, instead of shaking a catcher off, they'll stare him off. Russell really having some problems, and you get that kind of indecision with a young catcher back there, and usually the pitcher will throw the pitch in the same fashion, indecisively.
2-1 the count, and it's in the dirt. Russell able to come up with it, and now the count 3 balls and 1 strike. Russell has taken over as a catcher along with Dalton.
It's a good play by John Russell. Slider into the dirt, and he gloves it. Good play.
And it's ball 4, and the Mets have a run. Strawberry at RBI as Dykstra is forced in on the walk. And it's now the Phillies 2 and the Mets 1. Still bases loaded and 1 man out.
Now we mentioned his base on balls exceeding his strikeouts last year, and he's walked 3 in a row here in the first inning with a 2-run cushion. But I can't help but think that all that indecision, the wild pitch and the pass ball, has added to his wildness here, Ralph.
It certainly can't help when you're not sure of your catcher. Phillies traded away Ozzie Virgil and Bo Diaz last year. 2 veteran catchers, and now it's George Foster hitting with the bases loaded. And it's ball 1. Carlton struggling here. And Foster goes after the fastball. Foster with 12 Grand Slam home runs in his major league career.
That's second to Oakland's Dave Kingman, and this is a big at bat with George Foster. If you remember the 9th inning of Monday's game, 1st and 3rd and 1 out, and the score tied, he did not deliver.
And the slider is taken. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Steve Zabrisky's interview with George before the game, highlighted by the booing of George here at Shea Stadium, and the best way to keep the fans from booing you is to deliver. Don't mean to sound too simplistic, but that's the truth.
That's how simple it is.
Yep.
2 balls, 1 strike. Foster with 21 home runs last year, one of them a grand slammer. And he fouls it off. So now Carlton with a count of 2 balls and 2 strikes.
You don't know whether he's going to get it 2-2 or 3-2, but he's going to get a slider off of Carlton. And George, once he gets that big black bat of his going, it's tough to lay off that pitch. Have to be very patient.
And he gets a slider and he grounds it foul. So the count remains at 2 balls and 2 strikes. That was a high slider and a good pitch to hit.
Yeah, that was a mistake, even though it was in on the hands. And that's where a lot of pitchers try to pitch George. Hard stuff on the hands and breaking balls in the dirt away once you get ahead of it.
Foster with 1,198 RBIs. 2-2. Struck him. Nope, fouled it off. So there, a good slider, and Foster able to get a piece of it to stay alive at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Fastball, ball 3, and another full count. So Carlton with the bases loaded, a 3-2 count. The on-deck batter is Ray Knight, and a 3-2 count.
He threw him 2 sliders, 2-2. He threw Darryl Strawberry a 2-0 slider with the bases loaded. I would think that Foster will get another slider here.
Hernandez a runner at first base, Carter at second base, and Strawberry at first. Mets trailing 2-1. Gets a breaking ball, and Foster goes after it. He is struck out. So the boos start up again as Foster goes back to the bench.
That's a funny thing. Had George laid off of this would have been ball 4 in a tie game, but probably Lefty would have been out of the game. As it is, he takes a monumental step toward getting out of the inning. But of course, Ray Knight with a homer last Saturday against Carlton. Chance for that 2-out base hit and pick George Foster up.
Knight hitting at .455 so far this year with 2 home runs and 3 RBIs. Fastball, it's high. There are the stats on Ray Knight. Last year he hit .218 with 6 home runs. Had a fine spring, especially in the second half of the spring training season, and off to a good start this year. Ball 2, and again Carlton behind. Carlton, a 4-time Cy Young Award winner. No one has won it 4 times but Carlton. Sandy Koufax won it 3 times. They might have won it 4 or 5 times, but there were a couple of years in there when they gave it only to one pitcher in both leagues. And a strike call.
Matter of fact, all 3 times Koufax won it, only one was given. Jim Palmer and Tom Seaver, the other 3-time Cy Young Award winners, and right on the corner.
So Ray Knight batting with the bases loaded. The Mets trailing by 1. We're only in the bottom half of the first.
Lots happening, hasn't it?
We've seen a lot of action. 2 home runs by the Phillies. The Mets with the bases loaded. And it's another one out of the strike zone, and the count goes to 3-1, and the pressure's on Steve Carlton.
Ray Knight's first home run of the '86 season was on a 3-1 count. No place to put him now.
Hernandez, Carter, and Strawberry on the bases. 3-1 count. 2 men out. And it's blooped into right field. It'll be a base hit. Hernandez scores to tie it. Carter scores, and the Mets lead by a score of 3-2. As Ray Knight singles to right field to drive in 2.
Hits it right off the end of the bat. A little flare, a looper to right. No way to defend against these hits. But Steve Carlton with 3 walks and falling behind, and obviously that's what happens with big league hitters. Ray Knight, 4th and 5th RBI of the year, and he continues to swing that hot bat.
And it brings up Rafael Santana, and he looks at a fastball for a ball. Santana hitting .095. He has had 1 run batted in 21 at-bats. And it's ball 2, and Carlton having all kinds of problems with his control.
Gosh, he's already thrown 40 pitches this inning, at least. Don't have an exact count.
And the fastball is missed. 2-1.
3-1 on Knight. He got the hit. He's walked 3. It was 3-2 on Foster after fouling off a couple of pitches before George struck out.
And this one fouled away, and the count will go to 2 balls and 2 strikes.
I'll tell you, this is a good time to send Ray Knight with good speed on first base. If John Russell makes a mistake and throws through without looking at Strawberry, you may be able to steal a run here.
He doesn't go, and the pitch is high, and it's 3-2, and now he will go. Full count on Rafael Santana. After the Phillies scored 2 runs in their half of the first, Mets back with 3 and leading 3-2, and a throw to first base, and Von Hayes not covering. That could be called a balk.
That's exactly right. It was called on Doug Sisk last year when you don't throw the ball to the bag.
First baseman has to be occupying the bag.
Right.
That could have been called a balk, and there is ball 4, the 4th walk in the inning by Carlton. And the Mets again had the bases loaded with Ron Darling coming up, the 9th batter to bat in this inning.
Now Steve Carlton, of course, has to tip his hat to John Felsky. John Felsky trying to get him straightened out, as Carlton has got to be successful this year, one would think, if the Phillies are going anywhere.
Darling goes after a fastball, strike 1. Ron, a good hitting pitcher, is 0 for 3 so far this year. And this one fouled off. Again, a fastball, and the count 2 strikes on Ron Darling. Two strikes the count. Goes to the slider, and it's ball 1. Fastball again fouled. So the count stays at 1 ball and 2 strikes. Carlton had been scheduled to start 3 times this year, and all 3 times previous to this ball game he was rained out of a start. Len Dykstra, the on-deck batter, and the curveball in the dirt. Good play by Russell. And the runners hold, and the count goes to 2-2. Strawberry at third. Knight at second base. And Santana at first. And it's low at the knees and called a strike by Dutch Renner, and that'll do it. But the Mets send 9 men to the plate, get only 2 hits, one of them a bunt. They score 3 runs and leave 3. And the score at the end of 1, the Mets 3 and the Phillies 2. Now here's a word from Nissan. In a wild and woolly game going right now. The Mets leading 3-2. And the Phillies coming up for their second try. And a fine crowd here tonight on a cool evening. For Philadelphia, John Russell, who had to do an awful lot of catching in the Mets half inning at bat, will be the leadoff batter.
Ralph, I think that first inning was indicative of both of these ball clubs not playing a lot this week. The Mets played last on Monday, And the Phillies last on Tuesday night. Russell had a tough inning. Both pitchers had tough innings. A lot of walks, 2 home runs. Kind of a tacky inning, wouldn't you say?
And there is ball 1. 9 rainouts in 11 days in the National League and American League so far this year. In 1985, it wasn't until May 20th that they had the first rainout in the major leagues. That was in Cleveland. Mets' first rainout was on May 21st. And in 1985, there were only 32 games postponed because of rain. This year, it's been just the opposite. 2-1 the count. And the split finger fastball, and the count 3-1.
That's because of El Nino.
El Nino's back in the
they're
act.
Expecting El Nino again. It's where the water currents reverse from where is it? Australia to Peru, I believe. Instead of flowing to Australia, they flow back to Peru. That's a simplified form of saying that it messes up the weather all over the world.
Changes the temperature of the water on the Pacific coast, and that's when it all goes. 3-2 the count. Fastball and ball 4. So Darling joins Carlton in the walk festival. Carlton walking 4 in the first inning. Darling giving up his first. And a runner on with no one out, and Luis Aguayo the batter. Aguayo hitting .077 this year in 13 at-bats.
That El Nino causes anchovies to be found around San Francisco and Petrale sole to be wandering around down around Peru. It's kind of weird.
Even the fish get messed up.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's ball 1 as Aguayo takes. Aguayo hit .279 last year. Darling gave up 2 home runs in the first. One to Milt Thompson, his first of the year, and his first in 2 years, and one to Mike Schmidt, who had 33 last year and now has 2 this year. Russell doesn't figure to be running at first base. Mets leading 3-2, top of the second. Fastball fouled away.
Aguayo in there for the injured Juan Samuel, who injured his left rib cage in last Saturday's game. He was placed on the disabled list, I should say. And guess who they called up from the minor leagues? A young infielder named Greg Legg. Gotta love it. Greg Legg.
Every time he gets a base hit, he legs it out.
They're all leg hits, right?
All leg hits.
Greg Legg is wearing number 18. Greg Legg.
And there is Steve Jeltzy on deck, batter, who's having quite a start this year. 2-1 the count to Aguayo. And Darling to first base.
Saw Aguayo square around to bunt. This is not a bunting situation with the bottom of the order up. Good hit and run time.
Right to the second baseman, Tuffle. He has one. And they get the other. Tuffle to Santana to Hernandez.
There are a lot of ways that shortstop and second baseman. Watch Santana use that bag, and he pushes off that bag and makes the throw at the same time. Very close play at first. Watch him push off of that right foot. Boom, he's way out of there. That prevents from being taken out. And a bang-bang play at first base.
And it brings up Steve Jeltz. He takes a fastball. Jeltz, an interesting story. He switch hit in the minor leagues years ago and then gave it up. This spring he started switch hitting again, and he just tore it up in spring training, hitting .423, and so far off to a great start in the season.
Actually, as the story goes too, Ralph, as you look at Ron Darling, Steve batted from the left side, bucket after bucket of balls last year at the University of Kansas last winter, under the tutelage of his father, who was a minor league player.
Batted only .189 last year in 89 ball games, and now hitting over .300. Doing a fine job from the left side. And it is ball 2. Again, the split finger fastball. Darling threw an awful lot of split fingered fastballs or fork balls this spring. Was really working on it. Credits Al Jackson, the former Met pitcher, as the man who taught him how to do it. It took him a long time, he said, because he has small fingers.
Why did it take him so long to give his fingers a chance
to grow? Fingers grow very slowly.
That's
you
right.
You noticed that, right?
Last thing to grow. I've heard that.
2-2. Fastball. Strike 3, and that'll do it. So Darling gets his second strikeout. No runs, no hits, no errors, no one left in the score at the end of 1.5. The Mets 3 and the Phillies 2. Now here's a word from Garcia Vega.
2 sliders from Steve Carlton. And another one, 3 in a row. 2-1 to Len Dykstra, who had a bunt base hit his first time up, entered the game batting .318. Fastball and a beauty. 2-2 to Dykstra. Mets on top, 3-2.
Tim McCarver, you were brought back specifically to be a catcher for Steve Carlton after going out of the National League. Interesting
75.
character.
Indeed he is. Slider got him looking. The 4th strikeout for Steve Carlton. He was also walked for as the Mets sent 9 men to the plate in the first inning.
Carlton having an up and down start. He walked 4 in the first, and the Mets got 3 runs, and he has now struck out his 4th batter. 4 strikeouts, 4 walks.
Tim Tuffalo struck out in the first. Tim entered the game batting .200. A screwball. He was working on that all spring, and he throws it to Tuffle. 0-1 to Tim Tuffle.
One thing left-handers can do, they can develop a screwball after they lose their fastball. Right-handers don't have the ability to do that. Warren Spahn probably as good an example as I could think of right now.
Steve Carlton, his 659th start, 6 behind Warren Spahn. Warren Spahn led all National League pitchers with 665 starts, so Carlton only 6 away. Slider on the corner. So the Mets have 5 outs in this game and 5 strikeouts for Carlton.
All right, here he gets that outside corner perfectly as the ball breaks right on the tip of that corner.
That's that slider away by design that Carlton will do against right-handed hitters. And Keith Hernandez, the batter. I believe, Ralph, this is unofficial, but I believe that Carlton's high in strikeouts was 5 last year. And he has 5 now. Ground ball toward first. Von Hayes, an easy play. So the Mets retired in order here in the second. But after 2, they lead 3-2. We go to the 3rd after this word from Budweiser. It's on top 3-2, and a happy 69th wedding anniversary to Isaac, Mr. and Mrs. Isaac Hupp. 69 years they have been married. That is marvelous.
About as long as Steve Carlton's been pitching.
Seems that way. Carlton, a good hitting pitcher. He ranks in the top 10 all time. And a fastball's inside from Ron Darling.
I'd like to pass on a very quick get well to Raymond Natoli.
1-1.
Met fan recovering from heart surgery. We wish you a very speedy recovery.
And also a happy birthday to Mrs. Flora Klein, who's watching in Brooklyn, a big Mets fan. Get our social business out of the way. And Keith Hernandez gets Steve Carlton out of the way, unassisted. 1 out here in the top of the 3rd. Mets on top, 3-2.
Carlton with a lifetime batting average of .203 in the major leagues with 12 home runs and 132 runs batted in. Had a grand slam home run.
Had it against Fernando Valenzuela 2 years ago in Dodger Stadium, and almost had one this year, I understand, in his first start. Top of the first inning in Cincinnati. He ended up losing that game. His record 0-1. And that's what Gary Reedus is. He struck out his first time up. Breaking ball misses. Two and 0.
Phillies have a type of ball club somewhat similar to the St. Louis Cardinals. When Samuel is in the lineup, they have outstanding speed.
And Reedus fouls it back. How about those New York Rangers pasting those Philadelphia Flyers?
Well, they got the Caps yesterday.
Got the Caps yesterday. Popping off Caps down in Washington, huh? Fastball in tight, 3-1. And this one fouled back. Reedus, a guy who predominantly hits the bottom half of the ball, as exhibited by the great new book out by Elias Sports Bureau. Steve Hurt, Peter Hurt.
Pete Rose came up with the answer.
Wasn't that great?
They hit him with the question cold. Who hits more balls in the air than anybody in the National League? And Pete says, give you a minute to think. He had no idea who it was.
Check swing is fouled back.
And he said, well, how about Gary Reedus? They said, how'd you know? He says, I've been watching him play.
Percentage of fly balls to ground outs. It's almost 2-1. Wally Backman leads the other way. Ground balls to fly outs, about 2.5 to 1. That's a keep, and he pops it up. Actually, a fly ball to center field, but that's an idea of how he gets under the ball. He's got good power. Had 17 home runs a couple of years ago, but he really doesn't utilize that speed the way he should, does he, Ralph? By hitting the ball on the ground like this guy does, Milt Thompson.
48 stolen bases last year in 60 attempts, but as you pointed out, that fly ball doesn't help him get on base.
Not unless they don't come down, and most of them come down. Thompson's came down for his first home run of the year back in the first inning. Home run by Thompson, a home run by Schmidt put the Phillies on top. And Thompson fires one in the dugout. Boy, you talk about guys firing out of there. That Philly bench cleared out.
They went to the deck.
0-2 to Milt Thompson. Knocks him back away from the plate. 1-2 to Milt. Ron Darling 16-6 last year, a 2.90 ERA. Marvelous season in '85. Still 1-2 to Milt Thompson. Interestingly, 2 years ago, Carlton led the National League in no decisions with 14, and who was second? Ron Darling with 12. Here they are going at each other. And Gary Carter wants to talk. A lot of times a catcher and a pitcher will not get together because of not necessarily pitch selection, but location. The catcher wants it inside and the pitcher wants it outside, and you eventually throw that pitch. Well, the ball more likely than not will be right down the middle of the plate.
Getting back to those no decisions, in the last 2 years, Darling has had 25 NDs.
Swing and a miss, so Gary Carter going out to talk to Darling. Did it the right way. 3 up, 3 down for the Phillies here in the third. And after 2.5, it's 3-2 Mets. We'll be back after this word from Oldsmobile.
Momentarily here in the booth, a fellow who gets no respect, but we'll give him a lot of respect by calling him Mr. Dangerfield.
Well, thank you so much. You're very kind.
When's your new movie coming out?
Oh, the new movie comes out June 13th. It's I go to college in this movie. It's called Back to School. I figure I got no respect in high school, because I'll try college in this movie. No, high school I got no respect at all. I shared a locker with a mop.
Let me ask you one more question now.
Yeah.
You were scheduled to throw the first ball out on the second day of the season. It was rained out. The next day was rained out.
That's
no respect from the big guy up there.
Nothing goes right. Although today I had a good day. I got a dial tone.
Rodney threw out the first ball. It looked great. You look good.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure meeting you, Ralph. And I never got no respect with baseball either, I'll tell you the truth. The first time my old man played catch with me, he dropped me. Tough to do jokes here, you know that? It's the wrong atmosphere.
Well, you don't have any audience here. Anyway,
pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, right.
Rodney Dangerfield, and of course the Mets in this ball game showing some respect as they lead by a score of 3-2 as they come up here in the bottom half of the third, and once again Tim McCarver.
Well, Gary Carter, who walked his first time up and scored a run, is the batter. Gary off to a good start, 318 on the year. He has 7 RBIs in only 5 ball games, and the curveball is low. A tap toward third, and if that ball would have been fair, it would have been a base hit, but it trickles foul. So it's 1-1 to Gary Carter. The Phillies started the scoring. A home run by Milt Thompson and a home run by Mike Schmidt made it 2-0. But the Mets stormed back with 4 walks and 2 base hits to take the lead 3-2 in the bottom half of the first, and that's where we are.
Carlton with 5 strikeouts and also 4 walks.
Oh, good slider there. So it's 1-2 to Gary Carter. 515 starts without a relief appearance for Carlton.
And there's that slider. That's his bread and butter pitch. He's made 314 victories off that slider.
This one misses outside. 2-2. 515 starts without a relief appearance. To show you how overwhelming that is, Mel Stottlemyre holds the American League record with 272 starts without a relief appearance. Two and two to Gary Carter, who hits him well. Ball hit fairly well to left center, but it's going to stay in the ballpark. Gary Reedus makes the catch, and with 1 out, the batter Darryl Strawberry. That ball looked like it sailed in a little bit on Gary Carter. Didn't get the bat head on it.
The ball does move in. He gets a little bit out in front as the ball moves. He tries to hit it with his hands, and of course with that wind blowing in, it's hit too high to go anywhere.
Strawberry walked his first time up and was credited with an RBI as the bases were loaded. Darryl 4 for his first 21. That's 4 hits better than Bob Horner. Did you see that start? He was off to 0 for 21.
That's terrible. And he has that solid swing too, that little compact swing. It's hard to believe.
Right on the corner, 2-1 to Darryl Strawberry. Oh, good slider there. So it's 2-2 to Darryl.
Carlton has never pitched a no-hitter in his major league career. He has pitched 6 one-hitters. The all-time record for one-hitters is Bob Feller with 12.
Tap toward third. Tough play for Schmidt. Safe at first base. Schmidt had to throw off balance. And really no way to get Strawberry on a ball like that. Infield hit for Darryl Strawberry.
Right here, it spun right off the end of the bat. Darryl has that great speed. Schmidt has to throw it in a hurry. That's his only chance. And from that low position, he doesn't get anything on it, and Strawberry outruns the ball. Darryl a little slow out of the box, which is normal when you hit a ball like that. And the underhanded throw, close, but not in time.
Talk about smelling a hit on that one.
Ooh.
He got down there in a hurry after, as you said, he got out of the box slowly. George Foster struck out his first time up. Another throw to first, close to a balk.
Foster's strikeout came with the bases loaded and 1 out, but Ray Knight picked him up with a base hit to drive in 2 runs to put the Mets on top.
There goes Strawberry, and this one is foul back, I believe. So Strawberry will return to first base. He had second base stolen easily.
Big jump right here, but Foster tips it in and out of the glove of Russell. Strawberry had 26 stolen bases last year.
Slider inside, 1-1.
That time Strawberry was breaking back toward first when the pitch came to the plate. That's how good that move is of Steve Carlton. You've got to guess right or you're out.
Fastball in the dirt, 2-1. Foster wants to take a look at the ball.
There was a quick pitch if I've ever seen one. They're supposed to come to a stop, and Carlton varies the time that he stops at the belt. And this time he didn't stop at all. Look at this.
Supposed to be a 1001 stop, 1 full second. And George fouls it away, so it's 2-2. If that's the case, then Phil Niekro would have been called for a balk his whole career.
How about that Phil Niekro with that victory last night?
Isn't that something? A 3-hitter over 7 innings against the Yankees. Game the Cleveland Indians had to hold on to win 6-4. And it's 3-2 to Foster, and you can bet Strawberry will be off with this pitch.
Phil Niekro and Steve Carlton, the oldest to lead the league in strikeouts. They were 38 when they did it.
Slider is inside, so Foster is on. The 5th walk given up by Steve Carlton. And the batter is red hot Ray Knight. I think we can say red hot this early in the season.
No, he likes it. Off to a fine start. 2 RBIs in this ball game to put the Mets up, and the total going for him of 5 RBIs. Had 36 last year.
Now 6 for 10 against the Phillies, and this is 3rd game started. Grounded sharply to short, could be 2, and it is a 6-4-3 double play. No runs, a hit, and 1 left here in the 3rd, and after 3-2 Mets. Now here's a word from Express.
Coming in for the play-by-play, Steve Zabriskie.
Thanks a lot, Ralph, and good evening to you all. Von Hayes set to lead it off, with the Mets leading at 3-2 as we go to the top of the 4th. Hayes grounded to Hernandez at first, his first time up. Mike Schmidt and Glenn Wilson to follow against Ron Darling. And the curveball is low for ball 1. Hayes entered the game after the first abbreviated series against the Mets, hitting .364. What a play by Hernandez to Darling to take an extra base hit away from Von Hayes. And Keith does it again with that magnificent glove.
Checking out the National League scores, the Pirates shut out the Cubs behind Rick Russell today by a score of 4-0. The Cardinals beat the Expos 4-2. They continue to do well. Tudor gets his 3rd win. Rays 5-0 over the Dodgers in the top of the 4th. The Reds leading the Astros 4-1 in the top of the 4th, and the Padres and Giants on the coast later on.
Now here's Mike Schmidt, who homered to straightaway center field his first time up. And he takes the ball. And Ralph, we've talked about it before, but you just don't see that many balls hit out in dead center field, and particularly when the wind's blowing in like it is tonight.
410 to center, and that wind blowing straight in from center field.
Skies this one to right as Strawberry drifts under it. And very quickly there are 2 away. You saw that graphic on Schmidt. That was his 41st home run against the Mets, and 22 of them, surprisingly, have been hit here at Shea rather than at the Vet, because you would think, I guess, Ralph, most people would think that the Vet is a better home run park than is Shea Stadium.
Well, of course, he plays a lot more games at the Vet, but his real park on the road is Wrigley Field. He just tears that place up.
Glenn Wilson lined out to Strawberry in right field his first time up, and he takes ball 1.
He's hit 66 home runs against the Cubs.
Grounded fair outside 3rd, and a fine play by Ray Knight to get Glenn Wilson at first base. A 1-2-3 inning for Darling with 2 defensive gems.
And right here, it's another tough play. Schmidt had one that was maybe easier than that and didn't make it, and Ray Knight gets it away in such a good hurry that he picks up the out.
So the Phillies are up and down in order, and in the middle of the 3rd, New York still leads Philadelphia 3-2, and we're back after this for Lincoln Mercury. Santana walked his first time up, and he takes strike 1 from Steve Carlton. Carlton has walked 5. He has also struck out 5. Foul straight back, and the count 0-2. We all know, really, Ralph, what was the beginning of the decline for Carlton. That was when McCarver was no longer his catcher.
That's right. He can't find anybody to throw to now.
Raphael held up. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Tim was talking about his appearances without being in relief. 514. The last time he was in relief was back in 1971 against the Expos.
Well, he may be in relief again before his career is over. That's low again, and it's now 3-2. Because when you think about it, that quite often happens as a pitcher winds down his career. Lofted into right field, but Wilson, playing Santana very well, is very close to the line and makes the catch 1 away. Let's go back and see the play Ray Knight made to end the top half of the 4th.
Ray playing deep. 2 men away. He has to cut in and come over across the bag and into foul territory and get the ball away in a big hurry. He makes a fine defensive play.
Ron Darling, the batter, takes high and away. Ball 1. Darling struck out looking his first time up in the first inning when the Mets batted around to score 3. And it's 1-1. One ball, 2 strikes. Darling looks like a hitter because he was a pretty good hitter in college. Played other positions other than pitching. And he's called out for the 2nd straight time. Strikeout number 6 for lefty.
If there's any doubt about his ability to come back from that rotator cuff, he is throwing the ball very well. He doesn't have that great velocity he used to have, but there's that good slider that he uses right on the inside corner at the knees. Carlton, one of the great pitchers of all time, holds a record for wins by a left-hand pitcher in a season, 27 with Sandy Koufax.
And he did that for a less than stellar ball club.
Last place ball club, and he in that year won 27 ball games. Highest percentage of wins against the team's wins.
What'd they win, about 60 that year?
They won 20. Let's see. Yeah, they had a, well, let's see, not right. He was 27-10. I don't even know if they won 60.
Dykstra fouls it off in the count now. 2 balls and 1 strike. Len got the first inning started with a bunt base hit and scored New York's first run. Walked in on a bases loaded walk to Darryl Strawberry. And the count evens now at 2-2.
Carlton has a little Dangerfield in him. He also, after he won 27, lost 20 the next year. And he pitched a ball game where he struck out 19 and lost to the Mets 4-3 on 2 home runs by Ron Swoboda.
He got no respect.
No respect.
3-2 now. Dykstra batting with 2 out and nobody on here in the bottom of the 4th.
Tim McCarver was the catcher in that game that he struck out the 19 and didn't win. Just thought I'd point that out.
Called some good pitches and some bad
He
pitches.
called those 2 pitches that Ron hit out.
And strike 3 called to Dykstra. 7th strikeout for Carlton as he faces the Mets in order here in the 4th inning. But New York still leads at 3-2 after 4. Now here's a word from Budweiser. Things have settled down a bit. And there's been no scoring over the last 3 innings. Still 3-2 New York with all 5 runs coming in the first as John Russell leads it off in the top of the 5th inning against Ron Darling. Russell walked his first time up. He'll be followed by Luis Aguayo and Steve Jeltz. And a big curveball for strike 1.
Russell started the year last year at first base, and in the opening game he made 2 errors, and he asked the manager the next day if he could wear a chest protector and shin guards and a mask. Well, he's wearing them now as a catcher. They moved him in there. He got his wish.
He shouldn't have said anything. He was better off where he was. 1-1 now to Russell. Russell started off the season like a house of fire. He hit .500 in the series against the Mets in Philadelphia and came into the game hitting .462 so far this year. Breaking ball, he broke his bat as he hit it to short. Santana throws him out, 1 away.
Sunday, the New York Mets bring it home when they take on the Philadelphia Phillies. Join us for all the action live from Shea Stadium Sunday afternoon at 1:30 on Channel 9.
That's our next Mets telecast here on WOR. And in fact, we'll be on also Monday night and Tuesday night, both nights at 7:30 against Pittsburgh, as those two games have been added to the schedule.
Sunday, it'll be Sid Fernandez against Kevin Gross.
Luis Aguayo grounded into a double play back in the second inning. And he takes low and inside for ball one. Aguayo playing second for the injured Juan Samuel, who was injured in a game against the Mets earlier. That's popped up behind the Mets dugout out of play, and there's Sammy on the bench. And the count 1-1 to his replacement, Luis Aguayo. Samuel pulled some rib muscles and then aggravated it swinging the bat against the Mets. Beautiful off-speed delivery, and it's 1-2. Darling has given up only 2 hits. They were both solo home runs, one to Thompson and one to Schmidt in the first inning. He has struck out 3 and walked only 1. Ground ball in the hole. Santana and the Phillies, with 2 away here in the 5th inning, will send up shortstop Steve Jeltz. Jeltz, a strikeout victim back in the second. Came into the game hitting .318. And he rips a fastball into right center field for a base hit. Dykstra gets it back in. It's the 3rd hit off Darling in the first since the first inning. And if nothing else, it'll clear the pitcher Steve Carlton, who will bat with 2 out and Jeltz at first. Carlton grounded to Hernandez to open the 3rd inning.
Carlton has hit 12 home runs in his major league career. The record is 38 by a pitcher. Wes Farrell did that.
Do you happen to know who is second on that list, Ron?
Bob Lemon hit 37.
Right back up the middle. Tuffle to Santana to get the force play on Jeltz, and the inning is over. A hit and 1 left in the 5th inning for Philadelphia. After 4.5, it is still New York 3 and the Phillies 2. We'll return to Shea after this for Nissan. Kansas City leads Toronto 4-2, and it is the Tigers beating the Indians 3-0 in the 4th. In the 4th, Chicago over Boston 1-0. In the 3rd, Baltimore over Texas 1-0, and the other games are later. And as we go to the bottom of the 5th with New York leading Philadelphia 3-2, back in to call it, here's Ralph Kiner.
Okay, Steve Zabriskie, and for the New York Mets, Tim Tuffle will lead it off. And it's grounded foul. For the Yankees, it's Rasmussen on the mound. And for Milwaukee, Wigman started. Deer a home run, his second for Milwaukee. Tuffle in this game has struck out twice. And a strike call. Tuffle looking at Steve Carlton. Last year for the Minnesota Twins, he had .260 with 10 home runs.
Carlton last pitched a complete game in August of '84.
Tries a fastball that time. It's 1-2.
That was a 4-1 win over Montreal, August 6, 1984.
Good curveball, and Tuffle goes back for the 3rd time. Carlton picks up his 8th strikeout.
Well, Mets baseball is brought to you in part tonight by your tri-state Lincoln Mercury Mercur dealers.
Carlton now with a total of 3,932 strikeouts in his major league career, and he'll be working to Keith Hernandez, who has walked and scored. He also has grounded out. And the fastball for a ball.
You know, Ralph, one more stat on Carlton that probably is as amazing as anything, at least recently, is that his last win was May 20th of last year.
1 and 8 last year with that arm trouble, and ground ball up the middle. Great play on it by Aguayo, and he gets his man. Luis Aguayo filling in for Juan Samuel, and that was as good as Samuel could ever do.
He takes a base hit away from Hernandez here, and he knows that even though Keith does not run real well, he has to get it over there in a hurry. He almost threw it over Von Hayes' head. But here's the advantage of having a first baseman who's 6'5". Hayes, even though he's somewhat inexperienced, able to go up and snow cone that ball and keep his toe on the bag to record the out. So a good play at both ends.
So 2 men away, and Gary Carter the batter. Gary has walked and scored. He also has flied to left. Mets leading 3-2, both sides with only 3 hits. The Mets have picked up a total of 5 walks in this game from Carlton, although he has countered that with 8 strikeouts. 36 home runs against the Phillies. And it's ball 1.
Hits have been something that have been rare commodities for the Mets recently. The extra inning game on opening day, they only had 4, I believe, and they managed only 3 hits so far in this ball game.
The Mets have been rained out of 3 games. That certainly does hurt the hitters. Hard ground ball to third. Mike Schmidt over to Von Hayes, and the Mets go in order. The score at the end of 5 here at Shea Stadium. It's the Mets 3 and the Phillies 2. Now here's a word from Lincoln Mercury. For the Philadelphia Phillies, Mets leading by a score of 3-2. Reedus has struck out and flied out to center field, and the split finger fastball grounded to Ray Knight at third base. 1 pitch and 1 away.
The next batter, Philadelphia.
Well, tomorrow the Stanley Cup playoffs continue when those red-hot New York Rangers challenge the Washington Capitals again. Join Channel 9 for all the action live at 7:30 Saturday night. Rangers and Capitals right here on Channel 9.
And with 1 away in the top of the 6th, the Mets leading 3-2. The batter will be Milt Thompson, who homered his first time up, his first home run of the year. First home run in 2 years. And this one popped up to left field. George Foster is there. 2 men away. Darling quickly retiring his first 2 batters. In 5 2/3 innings, he has given up 3 hits, allowed 2 home runs. They came on the 2 hits he has allowed. He has walked 1, struck out 3. And he'll now be working to Von Hayes, who is 0 for 2. Hayes out in a great play by Keith Hernandez in the 4th inning. Fastball is ball.
Dutch thought about it.
Boy, he gave you the decoy, didn't he?
He did.
That right arm was going up. And the breaking ball, this time a strike call. 1 ball, 1 strike. Von Hayes hit 2 home runs in the first inning against the Mets last season. One of them a grand slam home run. The only man to hit 2 home runs in the first inning of a ball game in the major leagues. Fastball fouled away.
And Hayes has hit a home run against the Mets this year in that first series in Philadelphia. He hit .364 with a homer against New York. That's an unusual combination, a Miami Dolphin jacket and a Phillies hat and a Mets fan.
1-2 as Darling works to Von Hayes. 2 balls, 2 strikes. When Hayes hit those 2 home runs in that first inning, there's his average against the Mets, .271. He became the 21st to have 2 home runs in 1 inning. Fastball fouled off.
But no one had done it in the first inning of a ball game prior to that, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
Or since, yeah, that's right.
13th in the National League to hit 2 home runs in 1 inning.
Did you ever hit 2 home runs in 1 inning?
Never got up twice.
You were with the wrong ball club.
I was with the wrong team. That's right. And again, it's Keith Hernandez, and this time it's Von Hayes who is robbed of a base hit. And that retires the side in order. And the score at the end of 5.5 innings, the Mets 3 and the Phillies 2. Now here's a word from Michelob Light. Darryl Strawberry to lead off for New York. Darrell with a base hit in one official at bat. He also has walked. Darrell with an infield base hit. And Steve Carlton with his first delivery. Carlton has given up 3 runs on 3 hits. He has struck out 8 while walking 5. Missed with a fastball, 2-0. Carlton has settled into a rhythmic pitching motion since that first inning when he walked 4 batters and gave up the 3 runs. And a breaking ball just does miss, and it's 3-0 to Strawberry.
Carlton obviously not happy with that call, but apparently Dutch Rennert felt it was high, as the souvenirs are hawked in the stands.
And he walked him on 4 pitches, so Strawberry becomes the 6th man to walk in this game, and it's a leadoff walk. That'll bring up George Foster. Foster struck out in the first with the bases loaded and 1 out. But Ray Knight picked him up with a base hit to put the Mets on top 3-2. Base hit driving in 2 runs. Then Foster walked in the 3-2 pitch in the third, so he is 0 for 1 tonight.
I thought George had an interesting philosophy about the fans' reaction to him in the interview prior to the game, saying that they are reacting to his performance and not to him personally.
That's a fine way to look at it.
Probably helps him deal with it.
Strawberry running with a pitch, but the fastball is fouled away.
Carlton through 5 has allowed just 3 hits. Of course, the 3 runs have all been earned and the 8 strikeouts, but the 6 walks have hurt him more than anything else.
4 of those walks coming in the first inning when the Mets got their 3 runs. 1 strike to count. And the breaking ball. Foster was quoted in Miami as saying, "You can't go by public opinion. I'm on a different plane than they are. Anyway, they're in the world and I'm in the spiritual nature of things." And Foster fouls off a fastball, so they counted 1-2.
Well, George does have deep spiritual convictions about things, and I think that's terrific. And I think, too, that helps him deal with the situation. But when you get right down to it, the cut and dried of it is that if he doesn't hit, they're not going to be happy.
Well, the Met fans and all the fans that follow Foster want him to hit out of this world. Tekulve and Rucker in the bullpen for the Phillies. Throw to first base. 2-2 the count. Mets leading 3-2. No one out. Bottom of the 6th inning. And the throw to first. They got him picked off. Von Hayes down to second. He hits Strawberry in the back. And Strawberry on to third on the air. So Carlton, with a good move to first, did his job. But then Von Hayes, new to first base, hit Strawberry for an error.
Well, one thing you've got to do, and Hayes does it to a certain degree, is come into the infield, but then he throws the ball to the outfield side of second. Jeltz was inside the bag. You see Jeltz inside the bag waiting for the throw, and the throw hit Darrell right between the shoulder blades. Hayes had the right idea. He moved in toward home plate, but then he threw the ball outside the bag.
And the infield in. Foster grounds it slowly to second. It's bobbled, but Foster will be out at first as Strawberry holds at third. So Foster unable to get Strawberry in from third base with no one out. And he is out at first base for the first out here in the bottom of the 6th inning as Strawberry stays at third base for Ray Knight.
Had Darrell known, of course, that the ball was going to be bobbled, he could have scored, but with nobody out and the infield in and a ball hit right at the infielder, you just don't take any chances. You go right back to the bag.
Wise decision by Buddy Harrelson, the third base coach, and now it's Ray Knight batting with the infield in. Mets leading 3-2, 1 man out, bottom half of the 6th inning. Ray drove in 2 with a base hit to right field back in the 1st inning. Ray also hit into a double play in the 3rd, so he is 1 for 2.
And in case you're wondering, Strawberry will not be credited with a stolen base. It is an error on Von Hayes all the way.
Ground ball pulled foul. So Carlton out in front with a 2-strike count to Ray Knight.
And we know that that's how they're going to score it because Tim McCarver checked with the official score.
Always ready to help a fellow broadcaster.
That's right.
Strawberry at third base. Mets trying to break a 3-game losing streak that started in Philadelphia. And the breaking ball down low and inside, 1-2. The stoic Steve Carlton, grimacing as he always does. On deck batter is Rafael Santana.
Sometimes you think Carlton can't pitch well, even though his arms and legs are loose, until he gets that jaw loose. But he never seems to get the jaw loose.
Did he swing? Yes, he did, and that's it for Ray Knight. So Carlton with a runner on third and no one out has retired Foster and Knight. And that will leave it up to Rafael Santana.
Strikeout number 9 for Carlton, and again it's that biting slider down and into the right-handed hitter.
Santana, the next batter, and they're discussing now as Gomer Pyle goes out to the mound whether or not they'll walk Santana to pitch to Darling.
Does Claude know you call him that?
Well, everybody calls him that.
I know, but on the air?
Well, I'm sure he does. Claude Osteen. Remarkable resemblance to Gomer Pyle. Jim Neighbors. And while we have a moment here, we'd like to remind you this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the New York Mets and WRTV. And is intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the New York Mets and WRTV is prohibited. And they're going to play the percentage and walk Santana to get to Ron Darling.
And now Tim McCarver informs us that they have not changed the scoring on that play in which Strawberry was hit by Von Hayes' throw, but they have adjusted it a little bit. They have ruled it caught stealing and given an assist to Steve Carlton, figuring that Strawberry should have been out on the play. They can't obviously give a put out because no one was put out. So caught stealing, an assist to Carlton, but an error to Hayes, allowing Strawberry to go to third.
So on the intentional walk, the 7th walk of the ballgame, the first intentional, the Mets have runners at first and third with 2 men out, and Darling up. This will be his third at bat. He has struck out twice. Darling will attempt to bunt in situations like this. And he gets a breaking ball for ball 1.
Well, it's not a bad idea because Strawberry, with outstanding speed at third base, obviously has the opportunity to score on a bunt, even though there are 2 out. And Darling and Santana can both run pretty well.
Smith is in to guard against that possibility. He gets a ground ball. It's off his chest, but he recovers. Throw is wide. The tag is on time, and that'll do it. So a couple of bobbles, 1 error, no hits, and 2 men left. And the score at the end of 6 innings here at Shea Stadium. The Mets 3 and the Phillies 2. Now here's a word from R.C. Cola.
Afternoon, it was St. Louis continuing to win, beating the Montreal Expos 4-2 in the 6th. The Braves are pounding the Dodgers 6-1. Also in the 6th, Houston over Cincinnati 5-2. And San Diego will be at San Francisco later on. And as we go to the 7th inning, Mike Schmidt to lead it off. The Mets lead at 3-2, and back in to call it, Tim McCarver.
All right, Steve-O, what's that for John Tudor? 24 of 25 National League starts he has won after going 1-8 last year in his first 9 decisions. Curveball inside to Schmidt, 1-0 to Mike.
Ordinarily, you'd say it would take the league a while to figure him out. Looks like he took a while and then figured the league out.
Yeah, it's well put. 1-1. Schmidt homered his first time up tonight. Home run number 460 in his illustrious career. And his 41st against the Mets, 22nd here at Shea. I've been pounding those books, pal, when I were out of here.
I'll tell you.
Trotted down to the library.
Of course, you know Mike's stats almost as well as you know Lefty's stats. You have a lot of that stuff in your head.
Well, a lot of it through repetition, of course, playing for the Phillies for 7 years. Mike Schmidt back in 1973 broke in with a 195 average that year. That's in over 400 at bats. And
Had to be working on a little self-doubt after that rookie season, but boy, did he come back with a bang. And he's been pounding that ball ever since.
Ron Darling has pitched very well after giving up those 2 home runs in the first inning. He's given up only 1 harmless single since then. Two and two.
In fact, Darling has retired 14 of the last 15 batters he has faced. That single by Steve Jeltz in the 5th inning, the only blemish over the last 15 hitters.
Ron, 3-5 lifetime against the Phillies, 1-1 in 4 starts last year. 2-2 pitch. So the count's full. Obviously, the pitchers can go to their mouths on a cool evening like this. Supposed to be beautiful, sunshiny day. Supposed to be 70 degrees here in New York tomorrow.
I wish it was 70 degrees right now. That wind blowing in makes it feel a lot colder than it really is, though.
3-2. Mets on top of the 7th. Schmidt leading off. 3-2 count. Base hit right field.
The problem of child abuse is discussed on the WOR TV special presentation, A Parent's Greatest Fear. Channel 9 encourages the entire family to watch together and get the facts on this widespread phenomenon Sunday night at 8 right here on Channel 9.
And Glenn Wilson will be the batter with Schmidt on first, nobody out. Wilson likes to hit the ball the other way with a runner at first base. Good bat control. He led the Phillies in RBIs last year with 102.
Wilson has also hit safely in the last 5 straight ball games.
Tight fastball for a strike, 0-1.
He's 0 for 2 tonight, however.
Davey Johnson and his pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre. And it hit him. The split finger fastball hits Glenn Wilson. And now Darling's in all sorts of trouble. First and second and nobody out.
That is obviously the last thing that Darling wanted to have happen. This one just got away from him. Ordinarily, this ball's going to break down, and it just kept going away, or rather in. Wilson was waiting for it to break too and got plunked.
Well, now you have an interesting situation. If I were the Mets, I wouldn't be looking for the bunt. However, Ray Knight at third appears to be looking for that bunt. He's way in on the grass, and John Russell is the batter. The reason I wouldn't look for the bunt is you've got Aguayo, Jeltz, and then a pinch hitter for Carlton if he hits this inning.
Meaning that you don't necessarily, if you're the Phillies, have the kind of guys up that you want to have up to drive in those runs.
Right. And he is bunting, and he takes a fastball for a strike.
There's Jim Davenport, the Phillies' third base coach, relaying the signs.
Big hole on the left side. Santana holding Schmidt close at second. And he's bunting again. So it's 1-1. They could take it off on this pitch.
There you got a good shot. If you look at the third base coach Davenport and the hitter John Russell, you got a good shot of Darling breaking off to the mound in front of third baseman Ray Knight. The reason is because if the ball is bunted to third base, Darling wants to be able to be there, make a play, and allow Knight to go back and cover the bag and hopefully get the force on Schmidt.
Not bunting now, and the fastball is high. 2-1.
Would you put it back on here?
No, no, no.
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't have had it on to begin with.
Right.
You got it. I mean, John Russell's batting .462 coming in. He's 0 for 1 tonight, but he's hit the ball well when he hit it. He's swinging. And he takes a strike. 2-2 to John Russell. Don Carmen, the left-hander, warming up, and John Russell looking down at Davenport for the sign.
With 2 strikes.
Darling looking for a double play. Luis Aguayo on deck. 3-2 Mets, first and second, nobody out for the Phillies. Fastball, got him. Third strikeout for Ron Darling, and boy, was it a big one. 1 out.
Well, you have to wonder just exactly what John Russell's looking for up there. Darling initially behind in the count, coming back with the fastballs to get him, and threw him 2 consecutive fastballs, and Russell didn't offer it either one.
Well, that's what happens when you bunt in a situation like that. The first strike was called on the bunt situation. Joe Lefebvre will be the pinch hitter for Luis Aguayo.
Lefebvre has no averages yet. He has only been up 1 other time. This is the 4th game in which he has appeared, but he is 0 for 1.
Now, I guess with Lefebvre pinch hitting, we might have a chance to see our favorite name so far in the '86 season.
Greg Legg.
You got it. He's in there for Juan Samuel, who's on the DL. Roger McDowell and Jesse Orozco. Make that Randy Neiman are warming up.
Greg Legg, a young infielder they just called up, so he will probably go into play second base.
And a curveball to Joe Lefebvre is a strike. 0-1 to Joe Lefebvre. Talk about a guy who should be given a great deal of credit. Saw Dennis Leonard come back after 3 years last Saturday to shut out the Blue Jays. Joe Lefebvre, we'll tell you the story about Joe. Ball hit to right field. Darryl Strawberry there, and he makes the catch. So the runners hold their position. Both teams having a tough time scoring their runners. The Mets with a runner on third and nobody out in the 6th, couldn't push him across. And now the Phillies with runners at first and second, nobody out. We mentioned Joe Lefebvre back on June 17th, 1984. I mean, he had a devastating knee injury. And with that knee injury, that kept him out of action for the rest of '84. He's had 2 operations on that knee. And that lonely rehabilitation process is exactly that.
Well, that's what makes Dennis Leonard's comeback so amazing, because he had a very serious injury and a number of operations.
Jeltz the batter, and he fouls it back. 2 outs, runners on first and second. 3-2 Met lead here in the 7th. Steve Carlton, the on-deck batter, but Don Carmen is loosening. So I would imagine if Jeltz gets on, Carlton will be lifted. Curveball is low, 1-1. Yeah, when you're rehabilitating that knee, you have no competition anymore. You're used to competing all your career, and now you've got to compete with your own body.
Boy, it is no fun, I'll tell you. And besides that, it takes a tremendous amount of work to get a leg back to where it was before.
Split finger fastball and a beauty. 1-2 to Steve Jeltz. Boy, if Darling can pitch himself out of this, what a lift. Schmidt on second, Wilson on first. Just got a piece of the curveball, so he stays alive. Jeltz 1 for 2 on the night. Fastball is tight. 2-2.
Boy, Darling has been very close with the 2 pitches that have been called balls to Jeltz. He has not missed by much with either one.
He's only walked 1 hitter. He struck out 3. And the Phillies with only 4 hits. Split finger fastball, fly ball to right. Strawberry in. And Darling gets out of it. No runs a hit and 2 left for the Phillies. And after 6.5, it's still 3-2 New York. And here's a word from Chrysler Plymouth. Well, there he is, Greg Legg, in his first major league appearance. Now, I was talking to Greg before the game. He was very, very nervous, and understandably. Well, Len Dykstra, speaking of nervousness.
Yeah, he has a few twitches of his own, and it's not his first ball game.
He can make you twitch when you're a pitcher, and he's on base, too. 15 stolen bases last year and 3 this year. He had a bunt base hit in the first, and that's what he tried to do again. Lenny 1 for 3 on the night. 3-2 New York lead. Slider and a beauty, 1-1.
Dykstra now has hit in 5 consecutive games, and he has been on base in all 6 Mets games so far.
Oh, little breeze ball right there, and did it tip his bat? We'll see.
I think it did. I thought at first it might have hit him on the hand, but he's trying to drag for another base hit. It just missed his fingers and did go off his bat for a foul ball, but it almost caught him right in the chops.
Well, that's a tough strike right there. Not only do you foul it back, get yourself in the hole, but you almost lose a couple of fingers in the process. 1-2 to Len Dykstra. Oh, gonna bunt again. Bad play, I think. That bunt with 2 strikes. Len tried that once in spring training. And you know what? He tried to bunt. He thought the count was 2-1. He said it did not hit his bat, but it clearly showed on the replay that it did. That's why he was attempting to bunt.
Yeah, it's a good thing that he didn't bunt the ball unknowingly and foul it off. He would have been out.
How can you strike out without knowing it? Well, that's one way.
That's right. Well, got to know the count. And if you're not sure, ask.
2-2 to Dykstra. Line hard, and a good play by Jeltz. Got him, but just barely. So with 1 out, the batter Tim Tuffle, and Tim's had a tough night. 0 for 3 with 3 Ks.
In the American League, in the 8th inning, Milwaukee and the Yankees are tied 5-5. In the 6th inning, Kansas City leads Toronto 5-2. In the 5th, Detroit shutting out Cleveland 3-0. In the 8th inning, Boston leading Chicago 2-1. In the 5th inning, Baltimore leading Texas 2-1, and the other games are later.
Slider and a strike to Tim Tuffle. All the scoring in the first inning this evening. 2 home runs by the Phillies. Made it 2-0. And then the Mets came back with 3 in the bottom of the first. 0-2 to Tuffle.
I think what's happening to Tim Tuffle as you look at Kent Tekulve and Don Carmen throwing in the, or actually not throwing, but in the bullpen, is it typifies.
Swing and a miss, and Tuffle goes down for the 4th time tonight. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm just going to say what has happened to Tuffle tonight typifies how difficult Steve Carlton can be on right-handed hitters, and probably the most difficult left-handed pitcher for a lot of right-handed hitters to face is Steve Carlton. I think that's the thing that has made him so effective, Tim, is he is so tough against hitters from both sides of the plate. And there aren't that many lefties that are that tough on right-handed hitters.
Just like a hitter who can hit both left-handers and right-handers. A Roscoe in the bullpen and a swing and a miss by Keith Hernandez. 0-1. That, by the way, is the 83rd time in Carlton's career that he struck out 10 or more batters. Sandy Koufax leads the National League, having done it 96 times. 1-1. And it's 1-2 to Keith Hernandez. Of course, Nolan Ryan in another zone when you talk about 10 or more strikeouts in a game. He's done it 159 times. Curveball lifted to the left side. Schmidt back. Now in, and he's not going to get it. Oh, boy.
Schmidt appears to be all right, but at first it looked as if he might have hurt himself. The wind just got this ball and blew it back toward the stands. He stumbled twice, and the first time, let's see, twisted his ankle a little bit, and then he stumbled again, actually 3 times if you count the initial twist of the ankle. The wind almost pushed that ball out of play completely.
That was one of those situations, the old baseball saying, to watch the wind. What you do, you watch the results of the wind. Now, Schmidt wasn't watching the results of the wind there. But we were, and Hernandez has another shot. And he stays alive. Jesse Orozco could very easily be the pitcher in the top of the 8th. Gary Carter on deck. 3-2 New York leads. Grounded sharply, hit the bag. Hernandez may have a double, but he's not going to try. Glenn Wilson, actually, Hernandez fell down coming out of the box, and realizing Glenn Wilson led the National League in assists last year with 18, elected to hold at first.
Keith rips one down the line, and Hayes is in a position to make the play, but the ball hit the bag and went right over his head. Wilson got there, and of course Keith, having already fallen down, thought better of it and almost took too big a turn, as he just does get back. Here you can see the ball go right over the glove of Von Hayes. Hayes was right there ready to make the play, but couldn't. So it's a base hit.
And a legitimate 1-base hit for Hernandez. Swings and misses, 0-1.
Only the 4th base hit for the Mets tonight.
Gary walked, scored a run in the 1st, flied to left, and grounded to 3rd. Gary Carter. Line base hit up the middle. Phillies could have been out of this inning with that fly ball in foul territory, and now the Mets a chance to score some more runs.
Carter not trying to do too much with it, just serving it right back up the middle. That's a good piece of hitting. And the Mets, with 2 outs, have runners at 1st and 2nd. And this brings up the interesting topic of conversation about Strawberry hitting ahead of Foster. But now the bases would be loaded if Darrow were to walk.
And the slider is outside. Darrow 1 for 1 with 2 walks and an RBI. Got an infield hit his 2nd time up. Two and 0.
Carlton wanted that call because Russell had set up outside on the corner, supposedly, and Carlton did hit the target. There's Foster on deck.
3-0 to Strawberry. John Felsky has now gotten Kent Tekulve up in the bullpen. Should Foster hit with the bases loaded? And he will. And Felsky will.
Well, when our producer director Bill Webb suggested prior to the game that we talk to George Foster about the crowd's reactions, I think perhaps Weber was looking into his crystal ball a little bit, because George has been up with men on base now for the 4th time in this game. There has been at least 1 man on base in every one of Foster's at bats as John Felsky goes out to take Carlton out of the game.
Well, for Steve Carlton, how about this line? Of course, all 3 runners, bases are now loaded, of course. And should they score, they will be credited to Carlton. But up to now, he worked 6 2/3, gave up 5 hits and 3 runs. He walked 8 and struck out 10. All stats, both good and bad, are mind-boggling. With the pitching change here, we'll take a break. After this word, we'll be back after this word from Lincoln Mercury. Schmidt couldn't catch it, and now here 3 hitters later, Kent Tekulve in to replace Steve Carlton.
Tekulve making only his 2nd appearance, and he has pitched only 1/3 of an inning so far this year. Of course, the Phillies have not played since last Monday, just as the Mets have not played because of rainouts with Pittsburgh. So Tekulve in relief of Carlton. And that's right, Tim. You think back to that at bat by Keith Hernandez. 2 out. Hernandez pops the playable ball up, and because of the wind and Schmidt's inability to chase it down, the bases are now loaded.
So George Foster with a chance to redeem himself. He struck out with the bases loaded in the 1st inning. He walked in the 3rd, and with Darryl Strawberry at 3rd and nobody out, he grounded to second baseman Aguayo in the 6th. So George 0 for 2 in a tough night. But one swing of the bat can cure that.
And I'm sure that there are some fans wondering why not pinch hit for George. But Foster, making the kind of money that he is making.
That's right.
And having had the kind of career that he has had, it is just not time yet to do those kinds of things.
I totally concur. Is that being redundant if you totally concur?
No, you could concur with reservations, I suppose.
I guess you can agree with, well, anyway, Foster the batter with 2 out. Bases loaded, 3-2 New York. Swings and misses. Don Carmen, the left-hander, continues to warm.
If George fails to deliver here, he's going to need to summon all the spiritual strength he's got, because they will really descend upon him.
Fastball is high, 1-1.
George is just 2 RBIs away from having 1,200 runs driven in his career. And he's got a chance to pick up those missing 2 right here.
Ground ball inside the line. 1-run score. Carter scores. 5-2 Mets. The jeers have turned to cheers.
Keith Hernandez out there to shout encouragement and congratulations to Foster. He knows what George has been going through. It isn't a grand slam, but it's certainly good enough. Down the line, just inside the bag. Strawberry going all the way to 3rd despite Glenn Wilson's throw. As both Hernandez and Carter score, Foster picks up his 2nd and 3rd RBIs of the season.
RBIs number 1199, and 1,200 couldn't have come at a better time. Ray Knight fouls one off. Ray 1 for 3. He had 2 RBIs with the bases loaded back in the 1st.
And those 2 runs, incidentally, charged to Steve Carlton. He is also responsible for Strawberry at 3rd base.
5-2 Met lead. The Mets now with 7 hits. There's Darryl, and there's George. Little looper to right, but there's Glenn Wilson. But the Mets scored 2 runs on 3 hits, and they strand 2 here in the 7th, and after 7, 5-2 New York. We go to the 8th after this word from Oldsmobile. Well, Howard Johnson is in the game now, spelling Ray Knight. He'll bat 9th, and Jesse Orozco is the new pitcher.
Jesse's 4th appearance already this season. As you see, no record, no ERA. He's pitched 5 innings. And so far, he has given up 3 base hits and walked 5 and struck out 5.
And this was the reaction that George Foster got when he went out to his position after that 2-run single.
Well, you know, as much as the crowd has been on him, Tim, they want him to come through. And they're very happy when he does come through. And sometimes when the crowd is on a player, you think that they really don't want the guy to succeed. But that's really not the case.
No, that's not the case at all. Gary Maddox, the batter, 3 for 5 on the year. Secretary of Defense in Philadelphia, he is known as. Fastball is a strike to Gary, 0-1. Obtained in 1975 for Willie Montañez from the San Francisco Giants. Slider, he couldn't hold up, 0-2.
I think our colleague and pal Ralph Kiner had one of the greatest lines of all as we look at that pitch to Maddox, when he said that, in referring to Gary, particularly in his prime, 2/3 of the earth is covered by water and the other third by Gary Maddox.
He covered about 1/3 of the ball on that swing and still make that 0-2.
Maddox has been bothered by a sore back, and obviously that can affect the way in which you swing the bat.
Slider misses outside. Larry Anderson warming. He will probably be the pitcher in the bottom of the 8th. 5-2 Met lead. 3 in the first, 2 in the 7th. Gary fouls another one back. By the way, what a job by Ron Darling. He gave up 2 solo home runs in the first inning. And from the first inning, he gave up only 2 hits. And total, in 7 innings of pitching, he gave up 2 earned runs, struck out 3, and walked 1. Gary Maddox stays alive. Check that. Ron Darling struck out 4. Big strikeout. John Russell with runners at first and second, and nobody out in the 7th. Swing and a miss. Orozco gets Maddox, and there's 1 away.
And the rush hour with the news you don't have to hurry home for. Join the Channel 9 news team for up-to-the-minute news, weather, and sports at a more convenient hour. Weeknights at 8. It's News 9 prime time only on Channel 9.
All righty. Gary Reedus, the batter. Reedus, who has hit in every game that the Phillies have played so far, has not had a hit in this game. He's 0 for 3. Rips this one to left for a base hit. So Gary Reedus on there with 1 out here in the 8th inning, and the batter scheduled to be Milt Thompson. And he's going to hit for himself.
There was some question as to whether or not Thompson would play tonight. He jammed his left ankle, and there was some speculation Maddox might start in center, but I guess the off days and the rainouts have enabled him to heal up well enough to be in the lineup.
That's the one reason John Russell is catching tonight instead of Darren Dalton. Darren Dalton suffering a sprained ankle in yesterday's workout in Philadelphia. And Thompson fouls it away. You got to be alive for a bunt with Milt Thompson after going 0 for 13. His first hit of the season came on a bunt last Saturday. 0-1 to Milt Thompson. There goes Reedus. Slider is a strike. The throw not in time. So Gary Reedus swipes his second base of the year, and he's there with 1 out.
And the Phillies are now 8 of 9 in attempted steals so far. Reedus had an outstanding jump. And actually, you can tell he gets here before the ball does because the ball hits him. There's no question who beat whom there. He caught that one in a good place, though. I think it was on the left cheek.
You got to turn the other one. It's 0-2 to Milt Thompson. Anderson and Carmen now warming.
He'll have to slide on the other one next time.
Fastball is outside, and I mean just barely. By the way, for Gary Carter, that's 0 for 7 in trying to throw runners out this year. But in fairness to Gary, he has not had a chance to throw a runner out yet. Big out right here for Orozco. Fastball is high, 2-2. John Felsky in his second year as manager of the Phillies. To his right is Lee Elia, the former manager of the Chicago Cubs. Breaking ball gets him. Second strikeout for Orozco. And Reedus remains at second, of course, and the batter Von Hayes.
Well, Jesse can have a pretty good slider of his own as it breaks down and away from the left-handed hitters.
There was some concern in spring training about Orozco, but his 3 outings so far this year have been very strong. He's yet to give up a run. Von Hayes, on the other hand, has tried the wrong guy tonight, hasn't he?
I'll tell you, if he hits another one to Hernandez.
He has hit the ball well 3 times, and Hernandez has picked him 3 times. Brilliant play that second time, a good play the third time, but you get so used to watching Hernandez play in the field so superbly.
I thought Dutch Rennett was going to play trainer there for a minute.
Jeff Cooper, the trainer of the Phillies, out to check with Vaughn. He appears to have something in his eye, but he's all right.
Yeah, what you say about Hernandez is really right. As you look at the crowd here tonight, in excess of 27,000 on hand total. You almost get lulled into, 1, expecting him to make a play on every single ball that's hit down there, and 2, the great plays almost become routine.
He is a state-of-the-art first baseman, no doubt about it. Swing and a miss, 0-1. Reedus at second, 2 out, 5-2 New York, trying to break a 3-game losing streak. One and one. Jesse Orozco in relief of Ron Darling, who went 7 strong innings after a shaky start. And partially responsible for that shaky start, Michael Jack Schmidt, who homered in the first. 2-1. Gary Carter out to talk to Jesse, and I would imagine he is telling him that you'd be more inclined to challenge Hayes than you would have any thoughts of pitching around him, with Schmidt representing the tying run and on deck. So if you're Von Hayes, you got to look for the fastball here. With all that said and done, we'll see. He got it, and it's a strike. 2-2.
Good location on the fastball and pretty good velocity from Jesse. That's one thing the Mets have been worried about. But his last couple of outings, he's thrown the ball very well.
He really has. 2-2 to Von Hayes. Popped sets this one up with the wind blowing. I doubt that Carter will have a play. Maybe on another day. Speaking of another day, the Phillies return to Shea for an afternoon game tomorrow, and we're back on the air Sunday at 1:30 for the conclusion of this 3-game series right here on WOR.
And again, we'll take this opportunity to remind you as well that next Monday and Tuesday night's games will also be on WOR against the Pittsburgh Pirates here at Shea. 7:30 both nights, and they are not on the original schedule as they have been added and or changed due to the rainouts we've had and a few other things. So Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, all right here on WOR.
Breaking ball gets by Carter. Reedus to third. It's going to surely be a wild pitch. And it's 3-2, more importantly, on Von Hayes.
Well, this is Jesse's sweeping breaking ball that just starts out really too far close to the plate. He has to start that pitch out almost behind the hitter, left-handed hitter, in order for the ball to break in there as a strike. And that ball just swept clear past Carter's outstretched arm.
So Reedus at third, 2 outs. 5-2 New York lead, 3-2 to Hayes. But remember, Mike Schmidt on deck. Like Roger McDowell gets up to throw in the Mets bullpen. Got a piece of the fastball. Still 3-2 to Von Hayes.
And Hayes, like Hernandez, but not really like Hernandez in the fact that he hangs in there well against tough left-handed pitching. He does not do it with the consistency or the ability yet that Keith Hernandez does. And he does a pretty good job of keeping that front side closed.
Jams him with a fastball. The Mets could be out of it. Carter makes the catch. Good play, Gary Carter. No runs, a hit, and 1 left here in the 8th. And after 7.5, it's 5-2 New York. We go to the middle of the 8th after this word from Manufacturers Hanover. 2. See the numbers on him. Don had quite a year last year for the Phillies. Not so far this year. Don Carmen. He was 9-4 with 7 saves for the Phillies last year, an excellent 2.08 ERA. And he set a club record for games pitched by a left-handed pitcher with 71. And he's behind Dick Selma, who had 73 appearances back in '70, and Jim Constanti, who had 74 back for the Whiz Kids in 1950. Constanti, the short reliever that year for the Phillies and the most valuable player in the league, and he started the first game of the series against the Yankees. He lost 1-0. I believe it was to Allie Reynolds, who started for the Bronx Bombers. Here's Rafael Santana, and here's Steve Zabriskie for the play-by-play.
Thank you, Timmy. Santana is 0 for 1. He's walked twice. One of those was an intentional pass. And Howard Johnson is on deck. He will bat in the 9th spot, with the pitcher being inserted in the 7th hole, Ray Knight's spot in the batting order. Glenn Dykstra would bat 3rd in the order, the leadoff hitter. 5-2 New York, bottom of the 8th. And Santana fouls it straight back, and it's 1 ball, 2 strikes. Kent Tekulve, who relieved Carlton in the 7th, again only worked 1/3 of an inning. So Tekulve's made 2 appearances. Each have lasted only 1/3 of an inning so far this year. And a good looking pitch from Carmen right there to get Santana on strikes, 1 out.
Well, Monday, Merv moves to Channel 9. Tune in for all the glamour and excitement with Hollywood's hottest stars. All on the Merv Griffin Show. premiering Monday afternoon at 1.
Boy, I can hardly wait. I might catch that before I come to the park.
Oh, Merv. Yeah.
Howard Johnson, the hitter, batting for the first time, and when the double switch was made, Johnson went into play third for Ray Knight. And Hojo, trying to bunt for a base hit, fouls it back. Strike one. Johnson, as you see, hitting an even 300 with an RBI. He's hitting .333 right-handed and .286 left-handed. Of course, that doesn't mean a whole lot this early in the year. And now it's Terry Leach who is up and throwing. Leach brought up from Tidewater due to the scheduled surgery tomorrow on the knee of Ed Lynch. 1-1. Good fastball, 1-2. If memory serves me, Timmy, Carmen was very tough on the Mets last season. Pitched very well against New York.
Of course, 9-4 and 71 appearances, a 2.08 ERA. Of course, with a short reliever, the earned run average is not as important because he comes in with a lot of, as you see, Howard Johnson go for that ball right on the corner, and Carmen has come in to strike out too. But for a short reliever, the earned run average is not as important because he may come in and give up somebody else's runs. But an important sign was, of the 58 runners that he acquired last year, only 14 scored. So that's a pretty good ratio.
Darn good ratio. Len Dykstra, batting with 2 out and nobody on, fouls the first one off for strike one. Carmen has struck out the first 2 hitters he has faced. Dykstra has struck out twice against Carlton. He is 1 for 4 tonight with a bunt single and a run scored. Popped up foul out of play down the third base line, and the count 0-2.
Don Carmen was the pitcher in spring training who hit Len Dykstra with the pitch. They had a bench clearing word session. Wasn't a brawl. Wasn't even pushing and shoving.
It was a melee. It was a rhubarb. It was a lot of guys going harumph, harumph, harumph.
Yeah, harumph is that's well put.
The bench clearing harumph.
Harumph's a nice word to read, but nobody ever says it.
True. 2-2 now. Lenny with a 5-game hitting streak after his bunt single in the first inning. And he has been on base in all 6 games. He's also 3 for 3 in stolen bases so far. The Mets have stolen only 4, and Dykstra has 3 of them. Looked for one out of the strike zone, but fouled it out of play. The count is still 2-2. Nobody on. And it's skied to left field. Reedus had to go back a ways, but gets there in plenty of time, and Carmen retires 3 in a row here in the 8th inning. So we'll go to the 9th here at Shea with the Mets on top of the Phillies 5-2 after this for Budweiser. Peter Mitchell in the yellow sweater to the far left, one of the WOR salesmen frantically waving. I like the company you keep there, Peter. Mike Schmidt to lead it off for Philadelphia in the top of the 9th inning. 5-2 New York. Schmidt 2 for 3 with a solo home run and a single. Takes away ball 1. She looks a little bit sleepy, and understandably so. It's after 10. Strike at the knees, 1-1. Jesse Orozco trying to save it for Ron Darling. Darling with a very strong outing, even though he gave up the 2 solo home runs in the first inning. He really toughened it up after that and left allowing just those 2 runs on 4 hits while striking out 4. Breaking ball grounded to third. Nice adjustment by Hojo at the last minute. Over to Hernandez, 1 away.
This ball took a funny little hop. Unpredictable hop to the left. Look at that. Good play by Johnson. That's why it's always nice to be down. Then you don't have to stab at the ball. And that's why it's said with infielders, keep your glove under the hop. And when you do that, you can even try it at home. When you do that, your rear end comes down. If your rear end's not down, you can't adjust to plays like that.
That's right. Glenn Wilson takes away for ball 1. Leave the tailgate open. The cargo slips out.
Yeah, I don't mean for every little leaguer to start trying fielding ground balls in their living room. Some irate parents calling me.
2 balls, no strikes. Wilson's 0 for 2. He was hit by a pitch his last time up. He's also lined to right and grounded to third on a fine play by Ray Knight, who was playing third at the time, back in the 4th. That caught the corner, and it's 2 balls, 1 strike.
Speaking of living rooms, in Turnersville, New Jersey tonight, Mary Robinson, wife of the Mets hitting instructor Bill Robinson, feeling a little under the weather, but watching the game, and get well in a hurry, Mary. Nice lady.
A fine lady, and we do wish you the best, Mary. 2-2 now, as Orozco has painted that corner twice. There's Bill. Bill, you want to wave to Mary? That'll make her feel better than anything. See that smiling face. 2-2 to Wilson. And the slider misses low and inside.
I think I'd get an appeal on that. Gary Carter looked at Dutch Rennert. This is certainly worth an appeal from first base umpire Ed Montague. Whoops. On second thought, didn't appear that he went around, but it's close enough for an appeal.
You never know.
You never know. That's right.
But it's 3-2. 1 out, nobody on. Fastball got him. Orozco picks up his 3rd strikeout in an inning and 2/3 of work.
Now this is very encouraging to the Mets to see Jesse Orozco throwing like this. Wilson knew the fastball was coming, got it, but couldn't handle it.
So 2 out in the 9th. With a 5-2 New York lead, and John Russell, who is 0 for 2 plus a walk, will represent the Phillies' final hope. And he can't catch up to the fastball, and it's strike 1. That'll put a smile on Davy Johnson and Mel Stottlemyre's faces. Jesse can keep throwing that heater like that. 1-1.
Well, the key out in this ball game so far was when John Russell struck out. Ron Darling reaching back for a little extra with runners on first and second, and the Mets up by only a run in the 7th inning.
2 balls, 1 strike. Orozco trying to pick up his 2nd save of the young season and give Ron Darling his first victory. 9th inning, 2 out, nobody on. And it's now 3-1.
You can almost tell what's going through young Greg Legg's mind, his first major league at bat, if Russell gets on.
Popped up, but it's going to be out of play behind home plate.
Now you can't swing at that pitch, in my opinion. 3-1, you got to take. You're trying to get on base. The ball was probably high, but that's one of the vanishing things in this game now. John Russell, if he hit, you can't hit a 3-run homer with nobody on. That's what he was trying to do.
It's 3-2 as the crowd gets up. Orozco got the fastball by him again, and Jesse has struck out 4 in the last 2 innings to pick up his 2nd save of the season as Ron Darling and the Mets beat Philadelphia 5-2. Timmy and I'll be back to wrap it up for you, and of course Ralph is standing by with Kiner's Corner, and no, that is not Ralph. We'll be back to Shea in a minute. 5-2 New York after this for your Tri-State Chevy dealers.